Well, here on HQ, we are waiting for the moment for the #1 overall recruit, A.J. Dybantsa, making his college decision this morning. He has some lists on there when it comes to the 6'9" forward out of Utah, a final list of Alabama, BYU, Kansas, and North Carolina. One of those kids that can start, honestly, in the NBA right now. The talent is up there when it comes to the Brandon Millers of the world, the Paul Georges of the world. Of course, we'll have the latest on that commitment, but take a look at it. This is final list of schools and their current rankings in class. Alabama, BYU, and Kansas, I mentioned. The Jayhawks would love to have them. That current class is 4, maybe bumping them up in that top 3. North Carolina, Hubert Davis and the crew can also use a 6'9" talent as well. For more on this, Adam Finkelstein join us here. We're moments away to find out where A.J. ends up, but what's the latest you can tell us about him and maybe the possibility of one of those 4 schools?
Well, I think there were 2 schools left in contention yesterday, really, and that was BYU and Alabama. And most people are expecting a BYU commitment here. Kevin Young has done a remarkable job since being named the program's head coach 7 months ago. They got Igor Demin, the celebrated international prospect out of Russia, in June. Kanan Catchings followed suit after his decommitment from Purdue. They got Xavier Staten last month, who was the highest-ranked domestic prospect ever to commit to the program. And A.J. Dybantsa would be a historic pledge for BYU. Obviously, the first #1 overall prospect to ever commit to the program. You need 2 things to get that done in this day and age. You need a robust NIL program, and you also need a basketball situation that can convince players and families that their long-term well-being is in good hands. And that's exactly what Kevin Young and his NBA pedigree have been able to create since they arrived in Provo. In fact, they are dubbing this Provo, capital P, capital R, capital O. That has been the branding that they have utilized since arriving at BYU.
If it is BYU, he's saying no to Alabama and Nate Oates, UNC and Hubert Davis, and Kansas, the Jayhawks, they were Bill Self. How do they miss out if that's the case for him?
Well, again, this day and age of recruiting, things are going to start with the NIL commitment. And A.J. Dybantsa was a player who was going to command. There's no way to tell definitively what this dollar value will be, but it was certainly expected to be an unprecedented amount, at least for a high school prospect. And so that in and of itself was a significant hurdle for anyone interested in pursuing him to try and get through. Those programs left standing. That was going to be a primary part of the recruitment, the process, the negotiation, whatever you want to call it. But that was definitely a requisite to get to the finalists here for A.J. Dybantsa.
We got some breaking news, Adam. The news is in when it comes to A.J. Dybantsa. He's heading to BYU, as we just mentioned it moments ago, heading to join them, the 6'9" talent and #1 overall prospect, A.J. Dybantsa, heading there to BYU, saying no to Alabama, no to Kansas, and no to UNC. Of course, now this news out there, Adam, your reaction to this?
Absolutely huge for the BYU program, for Kevin Young. They talked about how it was a new day in program history when he took over 7 months ago. They are fulfilling that promise. This was something that would have been conceived really inconceivable until very recently, but BYU under Kevin Young is recruiting at an unprecedented level. Take this into consideration. This is the 3rd record-setting recruit in just 7 months. Igor Demin became the highest-ranked prospect to ever commit to the program in June. Last month, it was Xavier Staten who became the highest-ranked domestic prospect to ever commit to BYU. And now A.J. Dybantsa, he shatters all the records. The first time the #1 overall prospect in high school basketball has committed to BYU. It is going to put the Cougar program on center stage of college basketball next year, because Dybantsa will enter college basketball with the expectation that he will be the #1 pick in the 2026 NBA draft.
For BYU, I mean, you would think, of course, as you said, this is a historical ad in addition there. Any chance they can land anybody else out there to join with A.J. there at BYU?
Well, I don't think they're done yet. I think what you can expect is that they have a select few number of veterans who are going to come back and create some experience to surround this dynamic young talent with. But I would certainly expect them to be active in the transfer portal following the end of the season. Then the other thing we've seen is that they're going to be active in international recruiting. They do have Xavier Staten already in this class. He and Dybantsa give them a dynamic 1-2 punch. They do have some players coming back, but I do expect we will see them continue to be active active this spring, and those will be the two major markets that I expect them to be really most active in, the transfer market and the international high school market, so to speak, at least in terms of incoming freshmen.
Adam, you've been all over this for the past couple of years, and you kind of touched on it there when it comes to the landscape, NIL, and things changing. You don't have to go to those big programs. We're just seeing that now with BYU and A.J. Dybantsa taking his talents there to Utah. What does this mean for the future when you don't have to go to those blue-collar names and those big household names?
Well, this is a new era in recruiting, and it is an era in which if you want to get the highest ranked prospects in the country, in the world really at this stage, because of the prevalence of NIL, you're seeing more international prospects like Igor Demin coming over to play college basketball that might not have done so a few years ago. And it means, quite frankly, you need resources, or to put it more plainly, you need buying power. And if you don't have it, you're not going to be able to recruit these highest ranked prospects. Now, it's not just resources. Let me be clear about that. This also has a lot to do with Kevin Young, his NBA background, and the branding they have created. But you need to check both of those boxes. You need to have a robust NIL situation in order to attract and be able to sign the highest ranked prospects in the country, in the world. And then you also need to convince them that your development program is sufficient enough to get them to where they want to be. If you have the players, TV and exposure, that stuff's going to take care of itself. If you do not have those things, you do not have the players, then it's going to be business as usual. But it is anything but business as usual right now for BYU. This program is on a whole nother level in terms of the caliber of prospects they are able to attract.
Kevin Young, of course, spending time with the Phoenix Suns the past 3 years, and associate head coach there. Now at BYU, give me a comp. I'm not going to say Kevin Durant when it comes to AJ, but where do you see him fitting with those that play in the association?
Yeah, I think, you know, he likes the Kevin Durant comp, but Kevin Durant is 3 or 4 inches taller. I think it's really maybe a more athletic Brandon Miller. A.J. Dybantsa's best weapon is his mid-range pull-up. He rises up into that. He's got great rotation. He can get it wing isos. He can get it the mid-post. He's gradually starting to put more pressure on the rim. He's gradually extending that shooting range out to the three-point line. Now, I think he's more physically gifted than Brandon Miller at the same stage, so he's got another level of athletic pop of separation. But in terms of archetypes, think about a more athletic Brandon Miller, and that's a good place to start for A.J. Dybantsa.